Welcome back, everybody, to Scale Success Reptile Podcast. So it's the first Tuesday of the month. So we have a non-hognose breeder on, and today we're gonna have his name is Ryan, and he keeps venomous crocodilians, and now he's starting his own reptile slash fish expo. So we're definitely gonna pick his brain on what it takes to do all that stuff together. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to all the people that are here and give you guys a quick update on what we got going on tonight, or what we got going on here at Clover's Reptiles. So this past weekend, we just vended another Repticon local show here in Pembroke Pines, Florida, and that was pretty good for us. We sold a couple of hog noses to actually first-time hognose owners, so that's always really cool. Another thing with us, we're going to keep updating our morph market, and it's in our link below. So go take a look if you guys are interested in any of our hatchlings from this year. We have plenty still left and some really high quality stuff. Also, the reminder, if you guys want to take your record keeping, your husbandry record keeping to the next level, go in the description below and try out Husbandry Pro for 30 days free. And I'm telling you guys, if you guys try it out, you're not going to look back. It keeps record of anything and everything you want it to, from breeding pairs, incubation, brumation, what is it called? How long the eggs are going to take to, you get input hatch dates, estimated hatch dates, and they'll remind you, you go and check. And then once those animals hatch, you could directly create them in the system into hatchlings, and you don't have to manually write it down somewhere or input it. So I think that was the best thing that we had this year. We hatched 117 babies, and it was just 2 clicks, from the incubation, click, create neonates, and then auto-populated all the information. You just had to click morphs and stuff like that. And I think that saved us so much time. So that was really cool. What else do we have? Now we are officially partnered up with Ship Your Reptiles. Use Clover's 15 to get $15 off your next shipment with them. If you guys want to get good customer service, you guys want to get your animals safe to destination, make sure you use Ship Your Reptiles. Again, Clover's 15 is our code, so make sure you guys use that on your next shipment. What else do we have? I think that's pretty much on our end. So next week, and we're going to talk about this with Ryan, the 21st. Let me get that. Let me open my calendar real quick. And yeah, 21st and 22nd is the Scales Expo in West Palm Beach, Florida. So we're going to be out there vending as well. So make sure you guys put that on your calendar. Show up. It's at the South Florida Fairgrounds. Like I said, we're going to touch base with Ryan. We're going to talk more about that. Now let's get down to everybody that's here already, that's looking forward to this conversation we're going to have tonight. Eric Moore Factory, what's going on, bud? Thanks for joining in. Eric was vending right next to us this past weekend. He's part of the V unit where Vietnam Reptiles has a good group of people there on Instagram and chats. Everybody supports each other. North Star Exotics, thank you for jumping in. Thank you for supporting us. Joey D, Meteoric Serpents. Thanks for joining us, man. Morph Valley Reptiles. Thanks for joining, bud. Row 5.0. Thanks for supporting us as always. Ethan Hatchery, Brian, what's going on? Thanks for stopping by. Tammy, what's up? Thank you for joining. Last week, what was it? Last podcast with John Rice from Fathom Hogs. You had some good questions and conversation going on in the chat. So always, guys, if you guys are in the chat watching, you guys have questions, post a question, and we're going to get to you guys. And if you have anything, any questions about venomous crocodilians or what it takes to start an expo, make sure you guys drop it here in the chat. What's going on, Vision Quest Reptiles? Thank you for joining in. All right, guys. So like I said, this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a lot of questions. I think we already had a couple little topics that we're going to talk about, that we spoke about backstage, and we had to pause it for a second because I didn't want to get ahead of us. So guys, like I said, let's bring him on and help me welcome Ryan to the show. going on, Ryan?
What's going on, man? Welcome, everyone. Glad to be here. Real quick before we get started, what was that data tracker you were mentioning?
The data tracker. It's called Husbandry Pro.
Now, is that
And
an app or is that a web-based thing?
both. You could do the either or. They have a website and an app.
I'm gonna check it out.
It's really cool. I use it.
Do
Like I
you
said,
need
it tracks
Wi-Fi for
everything.
it, or will it work offline?
It'll work offline.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I don't know about you, but my snake room has zero service.
Okay. Yeah. No, it'll work offline. Like on the app, you can go in there and I haven't had the issue with online or offline
Okay.
actually. But I wouldn't see why because all the information is already into your app and the system. It'll probably
Okay.
just upload after the fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna take
But
advantage of that.
yeah, I'll send you our sign up link after the show
Okay.
or take a
Sweet.
look at it. So yeah, man. Like I said, give me a quick background on yourself, real quick for everybody that's watching.
Okay. My name is Ryan Gradney. Currently, I'm working with Prairie Predators and Scales Expo. How I got started, I mean, I've had snakes since I was 3. So I've had reptiles my entire life. I'm from California. So I moved out here in 2019, just before Thanksgiving. And since I moved out here, basically I specialize in high-end venomous, crocodilians, all that fun stuff. Do a lot, pretty busy. So basically, I run and manage primitive predators where we have about 300 crocodilians, almost every species. We got 21 right now. We've got another 200 venomous snakes, and then another probably 100 or 150 tortoises. So about 600 animals total that I oversee. I also do import export. So I import a lot of venomous from overseas, and then I'll also export to like different countries. And then get into this whole expo game. So
Yeah, you have a lot going on, man. So we
yeah, it's
got to
busy.
definitely have a good amount to talk about tonight. So let me ask you, you moved from Cali to Florida. Was it to start primitive predators or did you come on after?
Yeah, so I've been really good friends with Kyle Osplin. That's probably 7 years now, maybe 8. And we're friends. I used to come down to Florida every 3 months. So it was kind of like a quarterly trip for me just to come and catch reptiles and hang around with people that were like-minded. Because in California, especially Northern California, where I'm from, there wasn't really anyone that was doing reptiles the way I wanted to. There was a few people that did okay, and that I got mentored from back there. And then really to get my feet wet with like exotic venomous, I would have to drive to a guy named Steve Angeli's house. So I'd go every Friday for about a little over a year straight, and he lived 2.5 hours away from me without traffic. So it was like a 6-hour like round trip commute. So I leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning and I wouldn't get back to like 9 p.m. at night just so I could get all my hours and get my experience. And then Kyle was actually passing through and had a layover in San Francisco that he like wasn't expecting. So he's like, "Oh, well, I'm here. Do you want to hang out?" I'm like, "Sure, man. Let's go down. I'll take you to Fisherman's Wharf. We'll go check that out." And during that time, he was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" I'm like, "Man, I'm thinking about this whole YouTube thing. I'm thinking about moving to Florida. Like, I really want to get down there. I just, with real estate, it's probably going to take me like another 2 years. I'll have enough savings to move down. Like right now, it'd be a little tight." And he's like, "Well, I got a spare room at my brother's house. How about you move down? We'll start a YouTube channel." Like, he's like, what do you think about that idea? And you can help me out. I'm like, all right, sold. And I don't think he was really expecting me to be so serious because 2 weeks later, I was at the front door knocking, like, "Hey, I'm here. Let's go."
Pretty
It's kind of
crazy,
been
yeah.
nonstop since then.
Wow. I mean, like opportunity knocked on the door and you took it, right? Like that
Yeah. I
was
quit my job that
that's pretty
day.
cool. Yeah. What were you doing at that time?
Real estate. So
Okay.
I was about 3.5 years into real estate.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
And you didn't think about it after moving here. You didn't think about keep doing it just in case, or you're
The
just
first
all
year,
Yeah, go ahead.
the first year was really tough. So I was able to survive on savings because I had a place to stay, which was really nice. It was like extremely fortunate. So I was able to basically, with a little bit I had saved, just survive off that and kind of get the YouTube channel started. And then kind of found some odd jobs here and there just to kind of pay my food, but essentially is all. And then I started to get back into real estate. It wasn't really the same down here as it is in California. It's just a whole different vibe. So I wasn't really enjoying it. And then I got into tech sales. So I was doing tech sales for a little bit, a few months. And then the opportunity arose where there was like a payroll position with Kyle. And he's like, hey, like, you've helped me a lot with all these animals. How about we figure out a way to where you can do this full time? So then I was able to do that. And it's been a year and a half now, going full time with Kyle, building up the collections, and yeah, doing all the other stuff on the side. I started importing a year ago, and then Kyle got involved with that. So it's expanded rapidly. So it's been a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of fun stuff.
Wow. Yeah, man. It sounds like you guys are right now. You're on a great ride right now, man, and you're taking advantage of every little bit that you can.
Yeah,
That's
no,
really cool.
absolutely.
Um, so you know, you coming over here, especially taking the leap in the 2 week bound, like it had to be because you love this, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I've been doing, like I said, since I was 3. I've been crippling obsessed with reptiles to where like I always joke with, like, friends and stuff and like family. I'm like I wish I was half as passionate about anything else as I am with reptiles because I'd make so much more money. I'm like if I was half as passionate about real estate, like I was good at I was fine. I made really good money, but I'm like if I was
yeah,
even half as obsessed, I would have been retired in 5 years. So it's kind of like everything I did it even if it worked, it just didn't feel right. And then so I was always looking for something that felt right and to work with animals. And then so when the opportunity presented itself, yeah, I was like, okay, I'm going. Now or never.
nice. That's great, man. Um, did you were keeping venomous in California also?
Yeah. So in California, you can only keep native species, and
Okay.
there's a limit to that unless they're albino. So I kept a lot of native stuff. I had some Northern Pacifics. I had like Great Basin rattlesnakes, and then I had probably 40 Western Diamondback rattlesnakes because I had all the like pretty much every morph um, possible. Yeah. And then I worked with like Reptile Rescue and then with Steve, so I was able to do some more exotic stuff and kind of dabble in that.
Nice. Yeah, a couple months back I had he does reptile like rescues in California. Bruce. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Bruce, I think on his IG is like Bruce the Wrangler.
Not
Um,
familiar. Yeah,
yeah,
he
and
made me
he
so
does.
proud because Northern California is pretty. There's like 3 of them, and then Southern California there's a lot more.
Yeah, I think he's down in Southern California.
Yeah,
And he does the same thing. He gets a lot of he relocates venomous and bull snakes and all that stuff down there.
yeah.
So that was interesting talking to him as well. So what happened with the venomous stuff that you had in Cali? Did you bring it over with you, or did you have to let
Um,
it go because it's native?
yeah. So
Or
at that point, I had sold a decent amount of my venomous collection because I was gonna do something else with. I was talking about joining the Air Force, so I was going through all that process. So I sold a majority of my collection, and then nothing that didn't really work out. I decided not to go that route. So then I was starting to build my collection back up when I talked to Kyle. So it kind of worked out to where I had most of my non-venomous stuff, and then I think I had my big Western Diamondback, beaded lizard, and I think that was it. As far like I cut my venomous down pretty substantially, so I was able to travel light. And I had a friends watching all that stuff because I was still waiting on getting my permits over here. So as I moved, only had my friends watch a couple things, and then as soon as I got my license, I got everything shipped.
nice, that's good. Yeah, it's funny you say you were thinking about joining the Air Force. I had reptiles when I was like in middle school, high school, and when I joined the Marine Corps, and then
Okay.
right, like like a week before I left, I had to give it away to my friends. Stuff that I had iguana and turtles, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But between like joining the Marine Corps and then a time I was in the military and times after, I didn't have any reptiles until like my daughter started getting interested in it, and then like
Okay.
relit the fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, was it? What? How is it? You know, what's it called? Moving animals, especially reptiles, from one coast to the other? Was it difficult? How was it?
Yeah, so when I moved, I had a bunch of non-venomous stuff. Like I had a big like 6 foot blood python and then I had some ball pythons, like sambos and stuff. It was fine. I basically packed them up in the car and then I would like sneak them into the hotel that I was staying at that night and then like have to sneak them back out and be like, oh, I hope no one sees. And then actually the blood python like got out like during the drive. So like I had to like put it back in the container in my back seat like while driving on the main interstate and then ended up pulling over to get that back in. But the snakes weren't bad. It was I picked up some redfoot tortoises for Kyle in like LA. And I was like, oh yeah, like someone wants to get rid of them. I'll pick them up for you, thinking it's not gonna be a big idea. Boy, was I stupid. I'll never do that again. 5 days in a car with tortoises that just poop the entire time. And
Oh
you're just like,
my
oh my
god.
God, this smells so bad. Like I would drive like through Texas, like with the windows down. I'm like, I can't do any more of this. I'm like, well, we got 3 more days to drive. So that was probably the worst. And the venomous, I was able to delta over. So those were easy.
That was
I
pretty
should
easy.
follow
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool, man. So, a major question: what got you into venomous? Like, I know you've always been passionate about reptiles, but what drew you to venomous? Because it seems like that's what you're concentrated on, right?
Yeah, that's my concentration. So basically, I would say I was always like kind of fascinated with rattlesnakes and like venomous snakes, and I'd obviously like watch Steve Irwin and be like, oh my god, this is like there's just an appeal to them. It was for the most part, like venomous snakes, in my opinion, tend to be way prettier just because they're flashy. They're like, hey, look at me. I want you to see me because I'm venomous. And by that, they're like, wow, okay, you're beautiful. Or they have like the adaptation of a rattle in their tail to let you know that they're there. So they're just more striking to me. And then, yeah, I mean, that's probably the main thing. And then it's just a weird fascination that I can't really explain that kind of drew me to them. And no one would show me how to like take care or catch venomous or handle them even. So like when I was like 15, I was like, forget this. I'm just going to go catch one. So I just went out and found like cause I was pretty confident in my handling ability. I had a lot of like aggressive snakes. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go try to find one. So my first venomous like handling experience, I was out in the woods and found a rattlesnake, was able to handle it. And then obviously from there, once I did that, people were like, okay, we'll show you how to handle them. Like, okay, cool. And then ever since 15, maybe I brought my first one back when I was like 16. I've had pretty much venomous ever since. Yeah.
Okay. And how old are you now?
I turned 30 next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, 30. You've been keeping close to 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty extensive time.
It is. Yeah. And the last 4 years have been like, I don't even know how to explain it. So basically, up until now, I've probably dealt with maybe like 100 venomous snakes, like in captivity, and then in the last year alone, I probably had 400. So like really, the level of just like emergence into venomous and crocodilians since I've been down here has been exponential. So yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
Wow. Yeah. So and then so you did venomous crocodilian, and then you started a YouTube based off of that, right? Like what it, just you handling and the day to
Yeah,
day stuff.
so started the YouTube channel with Kyle when I moved down, basically to show his facility and what animals we work with, and kind of just see what we could do, see if anyone would even watch it, and kind of like educate, see if we can get out there and just like touch one person and get them into this. So yeah, the first month we actually saw a lot of growth and success, which was nice, which kept us going for a long time. And then just with life, got real busy. So like our viewership will tell you we were sporadic to post videos. I think God, I don't know if we posted in the last 8 months. But people still
I
like
was
to
looking at
watch
it, I
it.
think, yeah, I was looking at it earlier today, and I think 7 months ago I think your last video.
Yeah, we
Um,
filmed a couple, and we just haven't got around to like getting them edited and put out, just with everything going on. So it's something we're gonna get back to. It's just a matter of getting everything like to work.
I think the one I watched today was the leucistic cobra.
Yeah, leucistic king cobra.
Yeah, yeah, that one's looks is really cool to see.
Yeah, we need to do an
Um,
update because I think the last video she was probably 4 feet long. Now she's like pushing 8. So she's doing great. So I'm sure people would love to see her. Tyler came over and filmed with her like 2 weeks ago, so at least people saw that. But yeah, we need to update, because I was always like, we showed some of the snakes, but our viewership was mainly crocodilians, and then like, so like we have like like I said, 200 venomous snakes. I think we've shown like 50. Like there's so many that we haven't shown just because we're like, okay, we'll show crocs. That's what people want to see. And then it's like, I don't know. I do it for mainly just my personal enjoyment of it. So I'm like, okay, I guess we'll film it. And then usually, since I do it every day, I'm like, no one's going to want to see this. And like, I'm just feeding a gaboon viper. Why this is fine.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I think when we're around whatever species we work with, mainly, we get desensitized from it, because it's just the day-to-day stuff. And then we forget that, it awes people every time they see just a corn snake, or, they're not, people aren't used to seeing reptiles in somebody's home, or, even large collections.
Yeah.
When it gets to like venomous, it's even a bigger, wow factor too.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely is. So we need to get back on it. We're way more active on Instagram. So like our Permanent Predators Instagram is really active. Mine, I post somewhat regularly whenever I remember, but it's way more than the YouTube channel.
Okay. Yeah. So with primitive predators, do you guys are doing like it's open to the public so people can come see the animals, the reptiles you guys have, or
we're working towards that.
okay.
We're still building. I keep saying I'm hoping for like 3 months out, and every time I say it, I'm like, oh, it's been a year since I said that. But we are like, now we've got a bunch of material on the way. We're decided we're going to do it in phases. So phase 1 is right now under construction, and I don't think it's going to take terribly long, like 2-3 months maybe at most. So we should be starting to do private tours, hopefully by the beginning of the next year. And then we're supposed to be underway of construction of our snake building, which I don't think is going to be in phase 1. It's probably going to be like phase 2. Because we got about a 12-acre property. So it's getting it all done, I think, is kind of what's been crippling us. We're like, oh, we got to get it all done before we can open. Now we kind of sat back and talked about it. We're like, we'll do it in phases. That way people can actually come see our facility and get a glimpse. Like phase 1's still going to have 10 species of crocodilian and some of the big ones. Like you'll be able to come there in a 10-minute span, see Cubans, Temistoma, which are like false gharial, Nile crocodiles. You'll just be able to see the piebald Nile crocodiles that we got from Africa. So like there'll be a lot to see right then, and then we'll have some like cool interactions as well. So hopefully by the beginning of 2024, we'll be doing private tours.
Okay, and where are you guys located at?
We're in Jupiter, Florida.
Jupiter, Florida. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So guys, keep a lookout for them, and hopefully next year we start doing some tour, because I think there'll be some really cool stuff out there, right? With especially like you said, the piebald Nile crocodile. That's gotta be something special, man.
Yeah. So hopefully even next year we'll be breeding them as well. They're about the right size. They were together. We separated them for the winter, and then we're going to reintroduce them during breeding season. So hopefully that does the trick, and see if we can prove this out, because piebald hasn't been proven out in crocodiles yet. There's been a few piebald alligators found and piebald Niles, but no one's actually bred them in captivity to hatch out eggs and be like, hey, this is an actual trait. Right now it's just a random color mutation that's popped up in farms. So with any luck.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. See, like in the hognose, we're starting to see something similar,
Okay.
but it hasn't been close enough to even breeding it out and stuff like that. So, there's still speculations of what it could be, even if it is piebald or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I feel like a lot of morphs are popping up. So I used to breed ball pythons way back in the day, like when I was like in high school. So I carried over some of the morph fascination into like the venomous and the crocodilian side. So it's fun to play with everything. Like I said, I feel like crazy morphs are popping up all the time, like the leucistic king, albino gaboons, leucistic cottonmouths and stuff. And then I was talking to Kevin McCurley a couple weeks back, and he's got like albino mangrove snakes and crazy different mutations of other various random colubrid that he was telling me about that I forgot the name of. So he like it seems like a lot's coming out, so it's exciting to see.
Are you only working with venomous snakes, or do you do other? Do you work with other type of snakes like
I'm
colubrids
branching
or
out.
pythons? Okay.
Yeah, I'm branching out because for since I moved down here, I just dove into venomous. And at this point, because my other business is I import and I sell venomous. So I sell to other private collectors, to venom labs, to zoos, and institutions like that. So I've been lucky enough because with our social media following, I built up a pretty good network around the world. So people like when I reach out to them for them, especially like in like Germany and like Europe, we have a big following over there. So like if I reach out to someone that has a crazy snake, they 9 out of 10 times know who we are, which is really nice when it comes to doing business with them. So I've just been like searching for snakes that I like, and I've been finding a lot of really high quality stuff. And I was bringing it over for myself, and then I started selling them because I'm like, hey, if I can make all these connections, I can find the really rare stuff, the really high quality stuff that are coming from like quality breeders that no one else is really getting. So I'm just going to kind of connect high quality animals with the keepers here in the US. So I've been importing and selling all those, which has been fun. But I have come to a point to where like I've probably brought in 400 venomous snakes in the last year from overseas, and then I've shipped some out. And I feel like maybe hit the tip of or the top of venomous to where I'm like, there's no real other species I'm looking to get. The morphs, if they're out there, we've kind of gotten them. So now it's just a matter of breeding them. So I'm expanding to the non-venomous side just to kind of widen my demographic. So I'm starting on this shipment. I have a shipment coming next month of 180 snakes. So I've got Angolan pythons on there, Bismarck ring pythons, and I think maybe one other non-venomous. So I'm starting to kind of dabble in that. And then we've got personally in the collection green anacondas, blood pythons, Barron's racers, and a couple ball pythons.
Okay. Are you guys with the ball python? Are you planning to breed, or just you guys just have them to?
Yeah, I bred them last season.
Okay.
I've given a lot of my collection on breeding loan to my friend Paul. He vends the shows with you guys, Real 3D.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's got pretty much my entire collection except for my just normal female piebald. But I'm probably going to get her to him as well, just so I can focus on other things. Because that way he can breed them and I keep them, and I don't really want to get rid of those animals. But I think there's some other stuff, but before I dive back into ball pythons again.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe add a couple more colubrids and stuff like that into the collection. Stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at mangrove snakes, which I know are still
Mhm.
technically venomous, but they're a step down to where everywhere besides Florida you can have them without a license. There's
Yeah.
the Philippine mangrove snakes, which are like the blue ones that I want to get.
Mhm.
And then I've thought about jumping more into the blood python market. I was talking to one of my friends to get into like the piebalds, so I think that'd be a cool thing to do on the non-venomous side.
Nice.
Oh, and hognose. My girlfriend just
And hognose.
yeah. I was looking at
Yeah,
those
man.
recently.
Yeah. They're definitely. I think. I mean, that's what we do. Only
Yeah.
hognose. And they're cool. I mean, everybody at any expo you do, everybody stops and looks at them because of the wide range of colors and stuff that the
Yeah,
morphs
I'll have to actually talk to you.
differentiate from each other.
We'll talk business after this.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, for sure. And talking about like hognose. Actually, before we move on to like actual snakes, how because like I said, I was looking at the YouTube today and then your Instagram. You've been pretty successful so far in growing your social media. Um, was it did you have a plan at first, or was it just put out content and hopefully it sticks and people enjoy it?
Yeah, I think it's that famous quote, you have a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we had a full detailed plan about YouTube and how we were going to do it, and we filmed like 10 videos up front, and we're posting 3 a week, and that's what I'm saying. We saw pretty good success right off the gate. Like I think our first month we got 10,000 followers on YouTube. And it was like video after video was 100,000, 200,000. We had about a million viewed video like in the first month. So I'm like, oh, I figured this out. This is easy. And then month 2 came around and we got like not as many, like 20,000 views. It dropped off pretty steeply, and then it took basically we hit 10,000 in the first month, and then it took us 2 years to hit 50,000. So yeah, I don't know. I would love to say I got it all figured out, but at the end of the day, I think we just have really cool stuff people like to see. So it's
Yeah.
not hard to gain a following when you're posting stuff like the leucistic king cobra or giant crocodiles you're hand feeding off a dock. Like we are lucky that we have the amazing animals that we do. They're really the star of the show.
Yeah, like I said, I was watching some of the videos just to get a little bit of an idea and stuff like that and refresh. And I mean, even I sit there and just watch it because they're so cool.
Yeah.
Not everybody has it, right? They're
No,
very
totally. And I think if we
very specific.
really dive down, I think we even gain more of a social media following based on like the way I said, like the boring stuff. Like if I'm constantly thinking of ideas now to like while in my free time the little free time I have trying to maybe build up social media a little bit more of just like feeding when or filming when I feed and just like post a quick reel. I'm like, because we have so many animals that, like you said, you get desensitized with it. But I'm like, hold up, I just hand fed a 10-foot saltwater crocodile and this is normal to me. If I film that and film my perspective, I think people would like to see that as well.
Yeah,
And literally we do like once a week where I'm feeding a leucistic king cobra the berm. I've posted that before, and those videos do really well. So I'm like, okay, people want to see this. I think I need to focus more on creating the content. Consistency is the key for everything, especially
sure.
social media. So yeah, I think we could even do better. I think we've done okay so far, but I think there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, and then I think once you guys have your facility actually built, I think it's just thinking about it, you guys can feel. I mean, you guys can feel that whole process too of building the facility, and people are
Yeah.
gonna will definitely enjoy watching that.
Yeah,
Um,
the only issue is we're so busy. That's why I'm like, I always want to film, but then I'm like, okay, let me film. I'm like, okay, well, I can't edit because I got to go take care of all the animals. And then I'm like, okay, well,
mhm,
I'll get to it later. Well, I can't because I got to import come in. And they're like, okay, I'll get to that later. Oh, I can't because I'm like, geez, I need more hours in the day.
yeah, for sure. And see, I go through that sometimes too, and I'm not as busy, but like sometimes I'm so concentrated, especially feeding the babies and making sure that they're eating, that I forget to set up the camera and record. Like after I'm done, it's like I should have recorded this feeding 100 hog nose. And people
Yeah.
would, you know, that's a what's it called? A great thumbnail. Feeding 100 hog nose babies, right? Like
Yep.
definitely people want to watch that, and I just forget every time.
And I have friends that are so good at it. Cause like I'll literally be hanging out with people and I'll be doing something like, oh, hold, let me film. I'm like, all right, that's a good idea. I see what you did there. And then I'm like, then when I go to do it, I'm like, I finish. I'm like, "Oh, I should have recorded that. And then, but like all my friends, though, like every chance they get, they're like, they make a video. And then even sometimes I'm like, that was kind of boring. They're like, yeah, but people are gonna love that because they don't normally do. I'm like, okay, I guess so. We'll see. And then their videos pop off. I'm like, okay, all right, I guess you're right.
I guess it's just like you said, being consistent and just becoming part of the routine that you do, right? Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. But like you said, it's hard sometimes, especially like you're really busy. You have a lot going on, and what I say too is being your own camera person, like having to set it up. It's another obstacle there too.
yeah. No, it definitely is. So that's one thing I probably is probably gonna be my New Year's resolution for 2024 to get a little better at that.
Nice. Yeah. No, I know. I will be looking forward to some new content for sure, and I definitely look it out for it. So now you guys built the facility. You guys have we said you have 12 acres right now.
Yeah, so the facility's on 12 acres, and then we've got another 50 acres about 10 minutes away.
Nice.
So
Okay, so you guys plan to have like two sections of certain things and keep growing it.
yeah, yeah. Basically, the 50 acres is where the big boys are. So that's like we've got the 15-ish, 16-foot saltwater crocodile over there, and then the bigger Niles, and then our biggest gator, which is about 13.2. He's over there. But we still have like a 12-foot gator at the main facility. So that's it all kind of ties together. So yeah, we'll see where that one ends up, that property.
Okay. So for somebody that's interested in maybe working with like crocodile crocs and venomous anything within that realm, Like yourself, when you were 15, you just went out and caught one. What would be your recommendation for them to segue into that world?
Um, Probably first and foremost, get some really aggressive snakes. Get whatever snake you can find that just wants to bite you. That's not venomous. Like a viper boa, like wild caught viper boa or something. Like, get stuff that like wants to bite you, and then also stuff that has a similar body style to the venomous that you are interested in. Like, I wouldn't train with an aggressive rat snake if you want to keep puff adders. Like, it's just not the same thing. So like, get something comparable, learn how to handle a super venomous or super aggressive non-venomous snake, and then from there go try to find a mentor that will teach you the venomous side of things. And that's, I mean, that'd be my thing, to where when you go to the mentor and you find someone that's willing to help you, that you don't need to basically start from scratch when it comes to snake handling. Get your snake handling done and learned and as a second nature, and then go pick up the additional information to handle the venomous.
Okay, cool. That's good advice because I think like yourself, right? When you were young and you wanted to get in something, you went and caught a wild, venomous snake.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it can go bad real fast, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
And at
so
that point, like I said, I was 15. It was my first venomous, but I'd had snakes since I was 3, and then I'd since I was like 7 or 8, I've been like getting like aggressive snakes, and so like and I've been handling every snake I could get my hands on it. I have a video of like when I was 13 handling like a 11-foot just angry yellow anaconda and getting bit like 5 times. So like that, I was young, but like I built up the skills, because yes, if you don't know how to handle a snake and you go try to catch a venomous, you're gonna get bit 100%. And then also on that is, there's also 2 different things. When you go to get a mentor, you have to really want this. Like when I got started, like with Steve Angeli, like I said, I was driving 6-hour round trips once a week for a year straight. And a lot of the time I'm just cleaning cages that don't have venomous in it. I'm starting my first 3 hours, sometimes 4 or 5 hours of the day, cleaning his rat building before he'd like just come out just covered in sawdust and rat poop. And then I'd get the privilege to learn how to handle some of these exotics and clean the cages. So like, that's one thing people have to remember is like, once you get a mentor, that's a privilege that someone let you come and do that. That's not a right. And like, you need to treat that with respect and really want it. Cause I've had people like want to be mentored and stuff, and then they just don't appreciate the opportunity that they're given and just kind of like ruin it. So I'm like, okay, well, like that's like a lot of these guys, they like, I get hit up for mentorships a lot. So like, to get one of those, you have to really, really want it. And then once you have it, you have to be able to earn it. It's still every day.
Yeah. I have similar thing that happened with the hognose. I bought a pair of hognose, and I've said it multiple times on our podcast and stuff. It's as an exotic fire hogs, and I bought a pair and then just started picking his brain. And he lives about 45 minutes to an hour from me. And little by little, after started picking a brain, I just started offering like, "Hey man, can I come clean your, can I come help you clean snakes?" And like, "You really want to come clean snakes?" It's like, "Yeah, man, I could get my hands on some of the, really cool morphs and stuff like that, just to look at them in person." Because I was online looking at them online on YouTube, pictures and stuff like that. And within after that, just being there, picking up the knowledge on how to breed, how to take care of them, all that stuff, definitely skyrocket my success to the breeding process of and keeping the hognose. But like you said, put in the work, showing that you're not afraid to, get dirty sometimes, and have the dedication. Because I was going there working a full-time job, having children. I was going there at least once a week during the week, and one time during the weekend for 2 to 3 hours, cleaning and stuff like that.
And that's what it takes.
Yep.
And that's also what's going to separate like you and everyone, like that separates the people that succeed in this and the people that don't, is putting in those extra hours and the dedication to show like you really want it, not to like other people, but just to yourself, and the commitment to doing it.
For sure. Yep. Yeah. And like anything, right? Especially with the animals, you have those days that you're probably tired. You're like, man, I gotta clean, I gotta feed. The animal does not care how you're feeling that day, and especially with venomous, there's multiple steps just to feed a
Yeah.
venomous snake, right? Like you're not just gonna open a tub and hopefully it takes the mice or whatever you're feeding it. Um, but yeah, I think that's a big process. Like a lot of people don't understand when maybe they take the undertaking of keeping a large collection, then breeding. It's how long or how much time you got to input this.
Yeah. And
And
it's
even when you're
exponential.
sick enough. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like one snake, easy. Take like a minute. Two snakes, really easy. 10 snakes, okay, it's not a big deal. 15, not a big deal. Then you hit like there's like a number where it's like all of a sudden you get one more and you're like, oh my God, this is like part-time. And then you're like another one and you're like, okay, like one snake was really easy. 200 is a full-time job. And
Yeah.
and you don't, like, people don't realize that, which is, I'm sure you're catching on with that. It seems like you have quite the collection behind you. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I definitely this year, especially with all the hatchlings, just the feeding and it's with hognose is not as difficult, but it's just the time consumption of sitting in front of a rack and feeding 100 babies,
yeah,
and then troubleshooting the babies that don't want to eat, figuring all that stuff out as well. There's times, you sit there, you just look and shake your head and just move on to the next one.
yeah,
Um, and, like I think that's the other moments that make it or break it within our community and industry is keep going with that passion and not calling it quits when it gets a little tough. And I
yeah.
mean, I guess anything in life, right? It could be said.
No, totally.
So, um, so what does it say? So we talked a little bit about snakes. We did talk about behind the back in the backstage because we were talking about brumation, and this really lit a light bulb in my head and talking about brumation of vipers. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've got some viper species that, so I'm in Florida, obviously. So our climate isn't the best for some of these animals. So, like for instance, like we've got Mengshan vipers, which come from a mountain in China that gets relatively cold. It snows there, and then spider tail vipers, which come from the mountains of Iran, um, as well as some European vipers, which obviously Europe, Germany, and all that. It snows there as well. So to properly cycle some of these animals, you got to get down to, I mean, 55 is probably where you need to be. I've heard that like with Mangshans to breed them, that you even have to get them cooler. I've heard people tell me like 34 degrees, like right above freezing is like where you got to get them, or otherwise
Yeah.
they don't cycle properly. I'm going to start at 55 because I'm way too scared to get them that cold. But the Europeans do it. So I'm like one guy told me 32 or 34. Another guy told me like 45. And then another guy said 55. So I'm like, and then I was at the Bronx Zoo talking to their director probably 3 months ago now. And he was showing us his cool room for the Mangshans. And he's like, oh, I got it down to 55 and we've cycled them 3 times, but haven't bred them. I'm like, crap, maybe we got to get them cooler. So,
Oh yeah.
so it's just stuff like that. So I'm trying to rack my brain around how to build one of these hibernation rooms essentially. Cause I'm curious to see what yours looks like in like size, because like like the Mangshans will be like 8 foot long. So they're bigger snakes. So yeah, I've been trying to figure that out. I'm still like a year out from like needing it. But
Mhm.
it's got to the point to where I'm like, I need to start thinking about it. Cause yeah, some of these animals need to be cycled. And actually a lot of ours, even our North American stuff, like the Eastern Diamondback, like they occur down here in Florida, but they also occur further north where it does get cool. Like even like Tallahassee, you have cold snaps up there. So even like that stuff, I'd like to build a decent size like room, maybe like 5 by 10 or 10 by 10, that we can cool down to 55 and just put a bunch of our snakes in there to cool down for the winter and maybe get better breeding out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were talking about stage. My since our hognose are so much smaller, it's definitely such a smaller scale. And what I have is like a two-door beverage fridge, basically like commercial beverage fridge that I connected a thermostat to it and just control it off of there. And the hognose we're bringing down to 50 degrees.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it maintains it. The fridge maintains it, and the cool thing about the thermostats that I use in the setting, it actually has a time delay for the compressor, so it doesn't burn it out. So it's not on and off the whole time. Because compressors need to like, I forget the whole science behind it. But I had looked it up when I saw the setting. It's they need to like there's the gas in it needs to settle before it resets, or it can burn out, something like that. But like we said, backstage, we'll definitely talk after the show, or some other time. And before I was doing the reptiles and my actual like 9 to 5 job I had, I was in the electrical supply business,
Okay.
and one of my clients was he built walk-in coolers, and
Oh,
he built standard stuff and custom things. So I have him on speed dial, so maybe that might be a what's it called, a route you might want to go, especially with the
yeah.
size of the collection you have.
Yeah, definitely connect me. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and they're local here in South Florida, so it's probably not a big um, trip for them to make something go up to the Jupiter.
Okay.
Something like
Sweet. And
that.
then here, real quick, I see some Johnny Miller. Why should you go to the Scales Expo? I'll just hit that real quick because I don't know how
Yeah, let's
long you're
go. Yeah,
here. Bro, it's a reptile and fish expo. How much more fun can it get? So basically, I've got a bunch of great vendors coming. Obviously, you're going to be there. A bunch of my friends that I built up in this industry. We've got Vision. We've got Gardens of the Geckos. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's going to be a little bit different than your traditional expo. So we're going to also have some of my friends that are influencers. So if you have kids that watch their channels, or if you do, like Chandler's going to be there the whole weekend doing meet and greets. It's all free for that. So just come and meet them, talk to them. Then a few of the other South Florida influencers walking around. And then I also have some friends that obviously we're bringing the fish side into it. So there's going to be fish vendors there, give a little bit of diversity. And then I also have friends that are going to have different like monkeys that are there, different cats that you can come up and interact with and hold. It's going to be quite the event. I'm setting out to make it to where it's a extremely fun family event. And it's great for the vendors too, because it gives you a little bit something different to look at if you're going to shows every weekend. So yeah. And then also the same weekend, there's going to be a Halloween event that the fair is putting on, that there's going to be like a few thousand kids there and stuff having fun for Halloween. So coming to the show, if you have kids, take them over, go do some trick-or-treating, and then it's going to be vice versa. They're going to be coming over to our show and seeing all the cool animals for a Halloween weekend.
cool.
So sorry, I
I
didn't
mean,
know how long your viewers stay, so I wanted to hit that real quick while I saw it.
for sure. No, I mean, and that's a great. Let's move on to the expo, because I think people definitely are interested in it, and we'll get back to the reptiles after and stuff like that. So Scales Expo, like you said, is going to be reptiles and fish.
Yeah.
Is there a percentage of how much is going to be of each, or is just how does that work?
Yeah, so this is obviously the first year, and this is the first year. I don't really know of anyone else that's done a reptile and fish expo before, so it's definitely some learning curves. So it's probably going to be about 85 to 90% reptiles, and the rest will be fish. And then there's also going to be some mammals too. Like I said, I will have Stephen Brazil from Extreme Exotics is going to be a big vendor there. He's going to have his capuchin monkeys. He's going to have African serval. And maybe a few other surprise mammals there too. And then, yeah, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff to look at. And like I said, Steven will do interactions. So, yeah, but yeah, it's going to be probably about 85% reptiles. We're sold out at this point. I just have to go through and I haven't done the exact calculation of percentages yet.
Okay. We have Eric's More Factory, so he said he excited at vending. I think a lot of us South Florida, I mean in general, Florida people are excited for this show. It's a little something different. I think you got bringing the fish people on is going to be it's going to be a little bit of a change, because what's it called? I think there's a very fine line that separates that world. I think merging them is going to I think maybe take it to the next level.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring vendors so I'm really good friends with the guys up at Vision and Custom Aquariums. So I got them involved pretty early on, because obviously they make paludariums, which kind of merges the worlds to where you can have fish and reptiles in the same enclosures. They're going to have some cool stuff there. My buddy Will Nace is going to do some bioactive setup, so you'll see those on display. We've got Bad Fish Aquariums, the fish store down in West Palm. They're going to be doing a aquascaping demonstration, so they'll show you actually how to do aquascaping in the show. So they'll do that presentation. Will's going to show you how to do a bioactive setup. So like I said, it's a thin line, and I'm trying to weave it together, because I've seen some incredible enclosures that are paludariums that are like, you're looking at this beautiful, like, let's say for non-venomous side, like a green tree python, and then you've got different kind of cichlids in the water below, like because Will Nace actually has an enclosure where he's got a temple viper, and then he's got like dart frogs on the ground, and then fish in the aquarium. So it's like it makes incredible setups. Yeah. So I wanted to bring it all together.
Yeah, man. And it's funny because, like, as a vendor, like, thinking about everything we're talking about right now, as a vendor, it's great. But what's gonna suck is that we have to tend or be behind our tables. Sometimes that's attending shows. It's more enjoyable because you have to hold all the free time. Sometimes, especially a good show, getting away from your table is a little difficult. But you always get that before, like, set up before the show opens to walk around and stuff like that. But I'm bringing my whole family and my wife and my 2 daughters, so they're definitely gonna have a lot of fun with all that stuff going on.
Sweet. Yeah, and then we'll have like you said, we'll have the time before the public comes in, to where you guys, the vendors, can walk around, and then there's gonna be some little bit of time after too, to kind of get the public out, and then the vendors can mingle as well. So I want to make it enjoyable for everyone there.
Yeah. So tell us the dates and times for the public.
Yeah. So it's October 21st and 22nd, 10 to 6 on Saturday and 10 to 5 on Sunday.
Okay. All right. And this is at the South Florida Fair grounds, right?
Yeah, South Florida Fairgrounds in West Palm Beach, and right next door. So there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff going on too. So you have the Florida Outdoor Home Show right next door in the building next to us, and then you have the Spook Fest by the fairgrounds. So it's gonna be like, come in costume if you want. You walk around the Reptile Expo and the fish, walk around Scales in your costume, then go to the Halloween event, or vice versa. Come enjoy it. I planned it for around the Halloween time, so that way if you're bored or you're looking for something to do with your kids, just pop them on over.
That's cool. That's cool. Maybe we have just throwing an idea, have a costume contest during the show.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah,
that would be fun. Yeah, that could be fun. Maybe next, ideas there to add a little more fun to the shows.
Yeah.
But I think you have great ideas, man. And so, what made you want to start the Scales Expo?
So I was involved in Reptile Expos back in 2012. 2012, I took over our local reptile society. I became the president of that. And then with that, it was an annual Reptile Expo that we did. Back then, it was a whole team. So it wasn't just me. It was like, I think we had 15 people working on it. So I got my feet wet with that. I did a few of those, and I'd been going to them basically my whole life. And then about 3 years ago, after the first year being in Florida, and then I kind of like settled in, I was like, okay, like I went to a Reptile Expo. I'm like, this would be kind of fun. I think I could do something a little bit different. I could tweak it and then grow it into something big, is the goal, obviously. So then about 3 years ago, I started planning it. I have a friend in California that does Reptile Expos. He's been doing it for the last 10 years. So 3 years ago, I called him up. I'm like, hey man, like, thinking about doing this. What do you say? And then we went through this whole like hour or 2 hour conversation. I was jotting down notes, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do it. And then that year just didn't work out. Then the next year came, I was like, someone else did a show in the area I want to do. And I was like, man, I should have done it. I'm like, I can still do it. I'm going to do it. And then I was like, I'll do this year. That year came and went. And I was like, then early this year, I think March, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to book it. I called the venue, and then they're like, yeah, we have space available. Here are the dates. I'm like, okay, here's the deposit. I'm in. And then I was like, okay, we're doing it this year. So I kind of just finally jumped on it, and it was like, you know what? No time better than now.
Yeah. I was just about to say that. No time better than present. Yeah, man. And that's interesting because a lot of us, I think, that attend shows, event shows, always say, I could do this different, right?
Yeah.
I could, change this. But you're actually, taking you actually took the initiative to do it. And that's cool.
And I'll tell you, it's a lot harder than it looks. When you get into like the nitty gritty of it and you're like, it's going to cost how much? And it's like, so like you go through all that and then, I, man, it's been a whirlwind. So I booked the venue in March and I started like obviously I've been working on it for forever. And then life happens like always and I ended up buying a house like, in June. And I was like, the last thing I need is more stress on it. So like, yeah, you're always like, I could do this better. And then you get into it and you're like, all right, now time to work. And luckily, we've had great support. Like I said, before I was doing it with like 15 people, back in California. I built up a good team here of 3 people, but I got a really good marketing guy. I got, myself, and then my girlfriend's been helping out a ton. So yeah, we've got venues fully booked. The marketing's been going out. We've been getting great response. So yeah, now it's time to see how this one goes, and then obviously there's gonna be tweaks and improvements to make for the next one. And as long as it gets better every time, I'll be happy.
For sure. So let me ask you. I don't know if you can answer this right now or not. If this goes off, it's a success, and we get a good crowd, people enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm pretty sure you think about doing the annual. Do you think about expanding it to other areas? You know.
Yeah, I'm 100%. If this goes well, I want to master the West Palm venue,
Mhm.
and then because I'm right here, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then yes, I'm thinking expansion as long as this one goes well. So uh, all the signs are there. So yeah, if this one goes the way I anticipate it going, yeah, it's definitely going to be another one next year, and then possibly some other venues as well.
Okay. So far, what has been the most challenging part of putting this on?
Um, there's so many. Uh, I think probably the most challenging part is the mental side of things, like just wrapping my head around and like just being comfortable that like it's whenever you do something new, there's the potential of failing and like of showing up like and just getting over the fear of it. Like my biggest, I can't tell you how many times I woke up at like 4 a.m. Like I gotta cancel the show. Oh, I'm like I gotta stop this. Before like I have like nightmares of like showing up and like no one's there, like not even the vendors. And I'm like, what did I do? So that's probably the biggest thing when it comes to actual the workload, of like putting the show together. Uh, it's a lot, but honestly, it's manageable if you. I'm one of those people that I like to organize things and get things done. Like I'll just truck through it. So that hasn't been as big of an issue as the mental side of it's been. So I think that's what I wasn't expecting. So yeah, if anyone tries to do some of these larger projects, that's probably the biggest obstacle to get around is yourself.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, there's a potential failure, right?
Yeah,
Knock on wood.
yeah,
Hopefully not, because I think the more shows we have out there, I think, you're bringing a fresh outlook to reptile shows or,
yeah.
fish shows. Um, so it could be something big that's going to help the whole community.
Yeah,
So
and it's
hopefully
public
it
failure,
works.
so it's like I'm like, "Oh, geez, if I fail, it's not just me that sees it."
Yeah. So, and this man, this crossed my mind too, and I'm pretty sure you've heard it. Like, when you get there's a new show that pops up, people start thinking, oh, it's a scam. What happens if they take your money and the show doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
How have you crossed that yet? Have you gotten people call you as like, hey man, is this a real thing? Like, what's going
Yeah.
on? Or have you heard through the grapevine?
I've a little bit of both. Honestly, my reputation kinda helped a lot. So I maybe heard it there's been, like, one hiccup this whole time through the grapevine, and I was able to, like, snuff it out pretty quick, and it honestly, it was a bigger deal in my head than it was in the vendors that had kind of mentioned it. But I had one vendor ask me that, like, "Hey, what if the show doesn't happen and you don't like, what happens to our money?" I'm like, the show's happening. I put a lot of money into this. Like like it's gonna happen. And I'm like, if you don't believe me, just look me up. I'm not one like I'm not a scammer. Like I have a reputation in the reptile industry. I've been in this my whole life. So that's how I was able to just like answer that. I'm like, you do shows? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, this person, this person, this person are people that know me personally. Just ask them. And then as like more of the vendors that sign up, do, then it allowed for more credibility. Like when I started, like I said, I'm really good friends with like Vision and Missouri and those people just because of the connections I've made doing what I do. So when they were on board really early, so a lot of vendors were like, wait, you have Vision signed up? I'm like, yeah, they're gonna be there. And then when when I talked to Elizabeth and got her on, as soon as Family Reptiles signed up, that kind of squashed a lot of it too. They're like, okay, you're legit. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I
Like
did get
I'll tell you
that.
personally. Yeah, personally, I just went on the Fairs Expo website and saw that it was, the venue was booked and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that was my security of, signing up and stuff like that. Okay, at least he has the venue booked. If anything else, you know. But yeah, so I think that's like it's another just challenge of getting, you know, being recognized for something new.
Yeah, and the first one, from what everyone I talked to, like, the first one's the hardest with anything. It's like,
Mhm.
because you're pulling every piece of the puzzle from scratch. It's like booking the venue that you've never done before, negotiate a lease, getting vendors that don't know you and you don't know who they are, and you've never done a show. So it's like, why should I come to your show? It's like, hey, I'm going to make it good. And then getting attendants that have never been there. I'm lucky that the venues had shows before. So it has, like, if people see a reptile show's going on there, or a reptile and fish show, that
Mhm.
it's a good enough venue and it's in a good location. But yeah, it's like pulling it all together. And I'm actually, my buddy in California that's been, like I said, been doing it for 10 years. I'm flying him out. So he's helped me a lot during the process, and he's going to be there the weekend of the show. He gets in like that Thursday. We're going to do setup. So he's kind of helping walk me through everything, which I kind of felt was crucial, because I hadn't done it. So I wanted to bring in someone that has and I can lean on day of in case someone pops up, to where I didn't think about that. He's like, oh, I saw this 5 years ago. This is how we solve it.
Yeah. I mean, that's as we were talking about earlier. Having people that have the experience already, and getting to talk to them about a new venture, some of that it's so much helpful. It still doesn't take away the possibilities of failure or
Yeah,
things going wrong, but you can minimize them. Or you can at least have an idea. If this goes wrong, this is what we need to do, right?
exactly.
Um, so yeah. Um, and then so with the show now, what are you guys doing to like promote the show? So like, we get good traffic at the show and local and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the first decision I made for marketing was right off the get go. I wanted to know what other events were going on the same weekend as my show, which is why I booked that weekend. So like I said, right next door, there's a Florida home and garden show. So that'll pull some traffic, but then there's I think they're doing 2 Halloween events that typically bring in a few thousand people to those events, to the Halloween thing that's going on Saturday and Sunday. So we can pull that cross traffic. So I did that strategically, to where even if marketing fell in one aspect, at least there's gonna be thousands of people at the fairground that weekend that just naturally will be like, oh, let me go check that out. I didn't even know that was here. Then on top of that, a pretty healthy budget when it comes to social media ads on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, to blast that out. I've got a marketing guy that did the brand Local, if you know what that is, the Florida Local brand. You see like the
Yeah,
stickers everywhere
yeah.
and stuff.
Mhm.
So the guy that's helped start that and did most of the marketing is helping me with this. So he's doing my marketing. So for the social media side, and then to couple that with social media, is, like I said, with what I've done, I've got some really good friends in the influencer space. Like, for instance, Chandler's going to be there. He's promoting in every video now. He's promoting on social medias. He's got like almost 2.5 million followers, most of which are 12 to 16-year-old kids, which is pretty much the prime demographic. And when he's done events before, like Croc Fest, which was over in Tampa 2 years ago, he brought in like 1,200 people just by promoting it, basically. So I'm like, okay, that's not going to be the whole show, but that's going to help add to it. And then, yeah, the other friends I have that have social media. So and then also, bought a ton of road signs, which went out, and you're going to start seeing more and more of them around the West Palm Beach area specifically, because I really want to target that demographic because it's close. But they're also going out a little bit further as well. So trying to really hit every aspect of marketing on this that I can. And then, like I said, use this as like, okay, that hit really well. So next year we're going to triple the budget there. That didn't. Let's drop that, and let's kind of figure out where this is. Like, I don't know of any other shows that have brought in social media influencers before to market it. So I'm curious of how that's going to do and what kind of impact that has. And then I've done all the traditional stuff as well. So we'll see kind of what brings people to the door.
For sure. That's good, man. Yeah. And I think that's a key part of when I've seen shows. I mean, we'll talk about when I went to NARBC Arlington 3 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And just driving up and down the local area, there was billboards,
Mhm.
and that was the first time I saw a reptile show marketing that way and stuff like that. And when we didn't vend, we just went and hung out. We had family there as well. Um, so you can tell in the show, there wasn't a moment where the aisles weren't full the
Yeah.
weekends. There was always people in and out. So at least more traffic means better success, better sales for the vendors, and if the vendors are happy, I mean that makes a good show. The
Yeah.
word spreads, and you can grow it. So how many vendors do you have coming so far?
Here, let me tell you right now.
Okay.
So we have looks like 85 vendors right now. And yeah, we're sold out. We've got 200 and just I think 240 tables. So it's a 35,000 square foot venue.
And then, so you're sold out, you said, right?
Correct. Yeah, there's
Sold out.
some movement in tables, but yeah, at this point we're sold out. There's a couple of people that I think there's like 3 people that haven't paid yet that I reserved a spot because they told me, but we've got like 12 people on the waiting list. So we're sold out. It's just a matter of like which vendor is going to get the spot.
Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. I mean, so it's already a sold out show. So check number one already, because I think that's one of the worst things as a vendor. Look, I think my point of view is the more vendors that are there, the more foot traffic, the more you bring people in. To me, competition's healthy. If
Exactly.
that's my point of view. Some people might think, oh, less vendors, more opportunity for me to sell, but it's a give and take.
Yeah.
So that's
And
good. The
one
show is
thing for
sold
the
out already.
vendors too, if you've got vendors that, which I've seen some in the chat that are going to be there. One thing I tried to do as best as I could with the space I had is I really tried to space out everyone. So I have the floor plan. I'm working on getting the digital floor plan up on the website. My marketing guy's having a hell of a time. He's been working on it nonstop, but like trying to get on the website. I have the physical copy of it. But I'm trying my best to space everyone out to where it's not like ball python, ball python, ball python. Like I'm trying to get it to where like when you're walking around, like, yes, there's gonna be competition because you're in the same building, but it's gonna be spaced out enough to give you guys the opportunity to separate yourself and make the sale and give yourself the time to talk to someone because maybe they're walking past the ball python table and they see a rainbow bow and they're like, oh, let me talk to this guy because I haven't seen one of those in a while, or vice versa. Like I wanted to make it like I said, I truly want to have it be the best experience for everyone involved, the vendors, the attendees, everyone.
Great. Yeah. And I was just gonna ask, that was gonna be one of my next questions about the floor plan. Because I went on earlier today to see if it was up. I guess you guys are still working to get it on the website. But I'm pretty sure a couple of the vendors are curious too, like where am I gonna be stationed and stuff like that. So it seems like you're putting certain people in areas where it's not all basically one full aisle of
Yes.
only ball pythons, and okay, cool. I like that idea. That's I think that's a good part too of you know with there shows that you can pick the table you're at, right? And then
Yeah.
first comes first serve. Maybe that's a better approach too, where you strategically look at who's coming, who's the vendors, and placing them where it helps everyone out and helps
Yeah.
the traffic.
Yeah, and I
Great.
appreciate you guys all being patient with the floor plan because yeah, it's pretty much it's done. It's just getting it to a digital ability to be on there, click the tables, and figure it all out. Is for some reason it's taken a while. Like I said, my marketing guy. I talked to him on the phone this morning though, and he's supposed to be working on it all day. So as soon as it's available, it'll be up there because it's not that it's not done. It's just I need to get it online and make it
Sounds good,
easy to
man.
read for everyone too. So it's not like you're looking at all these crazy numbers and trying to figure out where you're at.
Okay. Talking about that, is there any I mean, there's in that area, there's not many like hotels and stuff. I was gonna ask if there was any hotel that you had reached out to maybe for like vendor rates and stuff like that, or people that maybe are traveling down to the show.
I haven't. So
Okay.
there are some hotels in the areas. I booked an
Yeah.
Airbnb for down there. Um,
Mhm.
that's one thing as I've got closer to the show, that's like, okay, I should have done that. So next year, that's high up on my docket to get done for sure. Because I was like, oh,
Cool.
I should have done that.
Yeah. Hey man, it's a lot. It's a lot to do. But like you said, this is the year to prove it and make changes. And even I think, I mean, like any business, I think the first 2 to 3 years, it's adjust and move around with what comes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So this is 100%. It's like proof of concept. Let's see if, because there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of, I'm super business minded. Like I always think like numbers. There's a lot of like expenses that go into putting on one of these that like you never think of. So I'm like, okay, can it at least break even to where it makes it to where it's like a fun thing to do? And it like I work full time and I do all this. So like it has to be to where it can sustain itself. Like I just don't want to like bleed money in it. But I'm like, let's prove it works, prove people get there, and prove it can like break even, and then just build and make it something great.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, that's not like you said. At least if you break even, you can try it again and keep doing it. If it's hard when it's a total, you're 100% in the red, and you're losing money left
Yeah,
and right. It's hard to keep it going. But I think, like I said, a lot of the vendors are really excited because it is a fresh look to, reptile shows here in South Florida. I mean, in Florida generally.
yeah,
So I think you're doing a great job so far with at least the concept of it.
yeah. What do you think of the website? Because that's one thing too. Like that, when I started researching this, I saw like a
Mhm.
lot of the other shows were just like super outdated. So I was able to kind of like put that together. I'm like, okay, let's try to reinvent this and just modernize this whole experience from when you're booking a ticket, when you're looking at the website to see like what is the show going to look like, and then when you're actually at the show, like I really wanted to kind of like dial in every process of it or every step for the viewer, basically.
Yeah, so I think the website, just the home screen, the launch screen, it's already eye catching. For anybody that's viewing that hasn't seen it, I'm gonna bring it up so you guys can see it. There we go. So there's the website. I mean, it's already eye catching with the reptile eyes and stuff like that. A couple fish here and there. Um, you know, I think the only thing that's missing is the floor plan. I believe so.
Yeah,
Because people like to see. Okay, like if you're a reptile enthusiast, you like to have to see where you're going to travel. Like
yeah,
I'm going to hit here, here, and here, and be able to see. So I think you did a good job with the website. It's pretty easy to navigate on stuff like this. And I gotta tell you, the pricing for the general admission, the admission pricings are pretty good.
okay,
I don't think and there is price sales at the door too, right?
correct, yes.
Okay, cool.
We'll make it easy to get in. Buy tickets online, bring cash, bring credit card. We'll get you in through the door.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so I think the website was great. You did a good job there, man. I think you're doing all the right things so far, at least in my point of view. Um, Having the influencers, it's a new concept too, and hopefully
Yeah,
it does work out. Because I know a lot of people. I was telling you, my daughter, my oldest daughter, likes watching Tyler's
yeah,
video and stuff like that. So I know that she has watched a couple of Tyler's Chandler videos. So I think there will definitely be um, certain people that maybe just come to meet these people,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And then, like you said, you have some really good vendors, custom cages. You have, Bob's Balls that has a great setup when he sets up at shows, Vision, and then even all the local guys that are here, Guardian of the Geckos, our good friend Emilio Villarino Reptiles, Paul 3D Reptiles and stuff like that. So I think overall, man, you did a good job
cool.
with this. I,
And definitely that floor plan is going to get up there.
there you
That's
go.
like the number one thing that we're working on right now is getting that up.
Yeah. Cool, man. Cool. So any final thoughts on like the expo side, like maybe that you think people need what like again, why should they come to this show and or maybe why they should vend next year, and keep him in
Yeah.
mind.
I mean, it's like I said, I'm really trying to make it the best experience for everyone. So I think it's just gonna be a fun expo to where it's not just it's not just gonna be like ball pythons the entire time or crested geckos or leopard geckos. There's gonna be a diversity there, not just even in the reptile space, but then you got fish, you've got mammals, you've got some interesting people to meet and chat to and hear stories from. So it's just kind of bringing together a lot of different aspects to make a really entertaining weekend. Which really, you go to these reptile shows, you could buy a snake on Morph Market, but we go to these reptile
Right.
shows because we want to be involved in the community. We want to see these animals in person. We want to see something different. So I think this show is really bringing all those aspects together. And yeah, as long as people come through the door, it's going to be a great show, and I think it's going to grow. I mean, when people come this year and they're like, "I just got a picture with a spider monkey. What kind of show is this?" It's like that's just going to build the anticipation for next year, or even just the next day. I mean, I'm sure some of these animals that are going to be there are going to draw people in as well, to where you can't see them anywhere else besides the zoo, and even there you can't see them up that as close as you're going to see them at the show.
Yeah. And is there going to be any like venomous on display there, or
Not this year. I'm
Okay.
working on something for next year. The laws in Florida are really tough. So I've been working with FWC, brainstorming some ideas. I think I have an idea of how to get it done, but it won't be for this year. It'll be for next.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah.
With any
I was thinking about that today.
There will be
Was that-
crocodilians though.
Okay, so there will be crocodilians.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Come get a picture with a baby alligator, baby saltwater crocodile. I think Chandler's bringing. So there's gonna be crocs there. There's gonna be all the other reptiles. There's gonna be like some mammals, fish. It's gonna be cool.
Cool, man. All right, and then for the vendors that are here, what's the setup time frame for vendors there?
Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then before the show, you'll have from 8 to 10. I prefer vendors are done setting up by at least 9:45 to give us just a 15-minute window before the public comes in.
Cool.
And on Friday, it's 10 to 8. But if we can get it all done a little earlier, I'll be there all day. So I would appreciate that. But I'll be there.
That's what I was going to say. That, yeah, Friday. That's a wide window to set up.
Yeah. Well, the families, Elizabeth said she's going to take about 8 hours to set up. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll give you the full time. So we'll see if everyone else can come and get it done.
Yeah. Okay. They're going to have a massive area then, because I saw them, they were this weekend at the Repticon, so I saw them set up their area, and it took them a couple hours.
Yeah.
To do. So if they're taking 8 hours, they're gonna definitely have a lot of good stuff there. This week when I saw them there, I had mentioned something that came up to them. I was like, hey, you guys need to put some hognose kits together.
Oh,
so
okay.
because I was like two, 3 tables down from them, so I was like, so when somebody buys a hognose, I'm sending them to you guys, and they did. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Next day when we walked in, he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "We got the kits together."
Oh wow, they adjusted on the fly. That's awesome.
Yeah, they did.
That's a good businessman right there.
That's right, man. And that, like I said, again, like you were talking about, like being part of the community, being there. That's another part that I like vending. This is my first year vending. I've done a handful already. It's meeting people, making connections, and throwing the idea around. He could have said yes or no, right? And he did it.
No, 100%.
And to me, yeah, that was a quick. It was in one of the sales I made. That was like the final sale. Like, well, if you go down there, they have everything you need to set up your hognose. They're like, oh, okay, cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought of something too. So one aspect too that I think is going to help with the marketing. We'll see how much. So like I said, when Chandler did Croc Fest, he got like 1,200 people to show up. So this is going to be his only public event of the year and his first public event since his bite. So I think there's going to be a lot of interest to come and talk to him. So I think that's going to pull in some more people as well. So I think it's going to be nice with all these aspects, bringing people in through the door.
I know this might be adding on top, but you're not going to have any panels and stuff. It's just going to be like a meet and greet with them, come up and talk and whatever animals and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So no panels this year. Next year, though, I do plan on having the larger of the two venues. Possibly, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how this one does. Maybe do a little bigger. But But next year I do plan on having educational shows, and then I'm toying around with some other ideas. I'll see how people react to this year, and then like I don't want to do like panels like the Animal Con style because I think that's a
Hmm. Hmm.
different floor format that I don't know if it would do well with the show. But I want to see if there's some ideas I can do that kind of are really cohesive with the experience of going to a show.
Yeah, I think the education part is too. I mean, I forget where I was at, and I saw a um a like little quick education on how to set up a ball python or something like that.
Yeah,
So I think especially for the demographic we're shooting for, and that comes usually to these shows, it's a lot of people that have the interest, and this is like their first step into the world
yeah,
of reptiles, and having those little education things will be great for everyone,
no,
for the
exactly. And
keeper, for the vendors.
I'm thinking too, we may have at Chandler's table or maybe Will or one of the other influencers tables. We may have just some like ball pythons and some like beginner animals to where like if people want to like hold something or touch something that instead of like I'm sure you get as a vendor like, hey, can I hold that? And you're like, are you gonna buy it? Like, no, I just want to hold it. Be like, well,
Yeah.
sorry, I got to talk to this person. I'm playing around with the idea, and I think we'll probably do it. Maybe not to the scale of what it will be. But have it to where there's an area dedicated to where like, okay, like someone goes, can I hold that? Like, not here, but you can go right over there and hold it. And then you send people that
Mhm.
way. And then someone can actually like physically hold an animal and kind of get the feel for it. And I think that's also going to tie back in with the vendors to be like, oh yeah, you held it over there. Be like, yes, I held that. Snakes are awesome. Let me get one. And I think when people can physically hold something in their hand, it helps with your guys' sales, but you don't obviously like want to do that for everyone. So I want to make it to where it helps out both parties there to where it can add to the experience.
Yeah, yeah. I get the same thing. I know for myself, the last two shows were Repticons. I know I'm not going to sell my higher end animals there, but I bring them because they're eye catchers. Like
Mhm.
a hot pink hognose. It's a $4,400 hognose, and people, can I hold that one? I was like, let's hold the normal,
Yeah.
and then stuff like that. But it's an eye catcher, and people, like you said, always. My biggest thing is how big it's gonna get,
Yeah.
right? So my first show I didn't do it. In the last two shows I have done, I brought an adult female, so at least people can see the size of what it looks like. Because you can tell people, kids gonna get this foot, this and that, but most people are not. They need to see physical, right? The physical
Yeah.
evidence in front of them.
It's hard to
I think it's a great
visualize
idea.
it. It's hard to like if you tell someone 3 foot, they're like 3 foot. You're like, no, no, like 3 foot. And then they're like 3 foot, and you're like, no, 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 3 foot. Here, let me show you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that's a great idea as well. But yeah, like I said, I've done it too, and it definitely attracts people and gets the interest, keeps the interest going. And like
Yeah.
sometimes it is that a decision maker on if they're going to buy that animal or not, or if they're going to
Yeah.
think about it later on. But yeah.
No, awesome.
So we talked expos. I think we covered a good amount of the expos. You said it's expensive to start one. I mean, just the venue's got to be pretty hefty price to set up, and then
Yeah.
um, are you quick question, if all like are you doing like booth styles, or is just tables in line? Um,
Um, let me see. I may have a copy of the floor plan right here. I can just
mhm.
give you an exclusive.
There we go.
Let me see here.
But I meant like back to NRBC, like I have the curtains, and you have like your almost a little cubicle in your area that you have, or it's just gonna be
It's gonna
open.
be so I can't find it right now. It's gonna be basically like tables. So along the
Okay.
perimeter of the venue is gonna be all tables like kind of like lined up, and then there's
Mhm.
14 12 table islands throughout 2 rows of 7.
Okay. Cool.
So if the I'm leaving that more to the vendors at least this year. Is if you have a banner to put up, feel free to put it up in
Mhm.
your space. But if you don't. You're good.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right. I mean, and in that situation, my question was like, are you purchasing all these like equipment? I mean, like tables and everything that, or you're renting it from the venue? And
Yeah. So I'm renting from the venue.
okay, I mean,
Yeah.
it's still probably a cost. Yeah, a high
Yeah.
cost to that.
It's not, yeah, it's not cheap. I was really surprised with what this actually came out to be. So I'm like, yeah,
And I'll tell you this, as a vendor and paying the fee, it's pretty much in line with other venues.
yeah.
So I think that, I mean, it's, even being your first year, you're still giving us a good deal. It could have been a lot more expensive, I think,
Yeah.
to try to cover cost.
I got
Yeah.
one vendor. So one guy the whole time is like, why is yours so expensive? I'm like, it's not expensive. They're like, well, this show over in this town he mentioned was small.
Yeah.
He's like, it only charges 250. I'm like, well, maybe their venue's cheaper. I don't like this. I just budgeted it in accordance with what the venue costed and what other shows do. I'm like, I didn't think it was bad. So I'm glad to hear that you think it's on par. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, maybe it's just a more expensive venue. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, for the size, a venue for the area, I think it's within on par with other shows of that size. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
I mean, yeah. So I wasn't, I didn't see the price and be like, oh my god, I was okay with paying for it. Um, but before we're getting to an hour and a half, I really wanted to dive deep into like some of the Venice stuff because we covered the Scales Expo. Again, guys, if you guys are in South Florida, or even want to check out something different within the reptile community, travel down to West Palm next weekend, and come and talk to everybody, look at some cool animals, meet maybe some influencers that you guys watch your channels and follow on social media. I think, like I said, it's going to be really cool. We're going to keep promoting it on our social media
Appreciate
because
that.
it helps us too as vendors.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of our friends that are doing it too. So it's everybody helps everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's a good show, everybody wins.
For sure. Yep. For sure, man. So, like I said, I want to dive back into like the venomous and the vipers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Currently, what's your favorite venomous that you're keeping?
That is a hard question.
That's a
I get
hard
asked a
question, right?
Yeah. I don't really know if I have one because the problem is when you like, I'm trying to adjust this light here so it's a little better.
Okay.
When I moved to Florida, I came down, I call it the grocery list. I made a list of like, if I could have anything, what would I have? And it was like venomous, crocs, crazy lizards. And I just kind of like listed it out. And then that really helped me like not get distracted by like some of like the more not like common stuff, but stuff I wasn't really that interested in. Is I was like, that's cool, I'm gonna buy it. And I looked at my list, I'm like, non-list, sorry. So I got the list now. So I'm like, everything is like, I open a tub and I'm like, or I look in a cage, and I'm like, that thing is freaking awesome. Some of the highlights right now, just because of how rare they are and like the projects I'm really diving into. Like the Leucistic King, that project is a huge one. We're the only people in the US with a Leucistic King at the moment. Second one ever to come into the country. And then as far as right now in the world, I don't know of any other ones that are alive right now. So right now, the one we have is it. And then we have some hets that we've been raising up. So we're about 2 years out from breeding. So like that's a super exciting project. Kings are fun snakes to handle. They get big, they're impressive, they're smart, and they tolerate handling to where you can act like we've got a 14-footer to where I can take them out and handle them. That size hooks are really hard to use because you're going to hurt the snake because it's just a big body mass. So you have to be able to work the animal, and they're just fun to handle. And then besides that, like the albino gaboon project was a huge one for me to bring in. They're stunning snakes, the first ones ever to be offered for sale anywhere. So to be a part of that was pretty awesome. So those are, I know you asked for favorites. I'm just going to list a couple, like top 5 right now. Those have been crazy. And then the spider tail viper, honestly, I never thought I'd own one of those. Got the opportunity back in February, March area. There's only one person in the US to have had them, and he got them pre them being listed on CITES when they could actually come in. So they kind of like slipped on the radar. He's built up a pretty big collection of them, does not sell them. He actually sends them back to Iran. because he's like, he doesn't even want to deal with the public sector, the sales. And then he finally, after bugging him, he didn't even message me. He posted them. He's like, oh, I'm gonna sell these. I'm like, hey, hold on. I'm like, how much do you want? He's like, I'll sell a pair for this. I'm like, I'll give you this for 2 pairs. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, but that's it. I'm not selling anymore. I'm like, that's fine. So I don't know if you've ever seen those, but they're the ones that actually have like a spider appendage on their tail.
Yeah, I've seen it. And I just looked it up on the website too. Those are pretty cool, man.
Yeah. So there's now 3 people in the United States that own them. There's less than 20 people in the United States that have ever seen them in person. And there's 1 zoo in the entire world that has them on display currently in Europe. And then we'll be the first facility to ever display them in the Western Hemisphere.
That's
So
really
those
cool.
are really cool.
Yeah. And we'll say with the albino gaboon,
Yeah.
I saw that through social media and stuff like that, and that caught my eye. I mean, I think just gaboons in general, the pattern, the colors, naturally, they're just amazing animal.
Yeah,
So those are pretty cool.
the albino gaboon kind of broke the internet for a little bit. Like, as soon as I posted it,
Yeah.
I was like, I had to like shut off my notifications. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's cool. It's like, and they're even better in person, to be honest. And the albino gaboons get better looking with age. Like just like the normal gaboons, as babies are a little ugly, and then when they start growing up, they really, really develop.
Yeah. My question with the kings cobras, I've always, just the face structure and the scale structure on their head has always caught my attention because they're very big, like plates of scales,
Yes.
right? What's the feeling like that on them? Is it scales or is it more of like maybe I don't even know how to explain it, right?
They're really smooth.
Okay.
The big ones almost
Yeah.
feels like armor plating kind of, but
Mm.
like smooth armor plating, and you can feel the scales moving in your hands because I mean they're the size of my thumbnail, each scale. So like you're feeling those move. The little ones feel like a big corn snake, like the scales. Like
Right.
it's pretty similar to that. Their body structure and the way they move is obviously different. So like they feel like a different snake. But yeah, when they get really large, you can feel the individual scales move, which is interesting.
Yeah, and that's what, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Like it looks like they have armor,
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. Um, that's really cool.
And
When
kings
you
are
guys
fun
have,
too because they'll mellow out, but then also like if you have one that's not mellow, like they're one of those snakes that is they're just gonna like 1 second you're gonna have them by the tail, the next second their face is coming up, mouth open, and they're completely reversed. And the way to get out of it is you actually pull the tail closer. So like it's like counterproductive. Like if you let go, they're making more ground on you. Whereas if you pull the tail and move them out slightly, it actually like reverse pulls them. So it's like they're an interesting snake to handle, and especially when you get a feisty one and it's just like right in your face, you're like, geez. But they're also a rewarding one because they learn and they're intelligent. They recognize people. So I could get away handling a certain animal to where if you never handled that animal before and you try to hold it or touch it, it's gonna be like, well, who the heck are you? Like, I don't trust you, and it's gonna like it'll push you differently than it will me, and vice versa. When I go handle my friends' kings, that they can like just throw around their neck or they just take out. But if I try to handle it, the thing's coming out me mouth wide open. I'm like, okay, well, I haven't built your trust yet.
yeah, and that's interesting to hear too because people talk about reptiles just have an instinct and not actual intelligence and stuff like that. Where when you get to larger snakes, I think they do have intelligence. Even the smaller ones.
Yeah.
I mean, even my hognose, I can tell that when I'm in here feeding them or if my wife's in here handling with them, they're more interactive with me than the rest because I'm here more often. Right?
Yeah, I've
I think they definitely learn.
a story that you might not even believe. So I've had my blood python since 2008. And it was a captive hatched one or something. It came from a farm. It wasn't captive born here. It was back when that was still happening regularly.
Right.
So as soon as I got it, bitey is all hell. Like would not, you sit on the ground, trying to pick it up was a nightmare. So I spent like 6 months just calming the thing down. Now it's a puppy, but I got it pretty calm. And then when at like 8 inches, and then when she was like 3-ish foot, 3.5 foot, I had my friend come over and I was like 18 or something. I was sitting on the ground, like Indian style, just legs crossed, and she was in front of me. My friend was holding her, and then like he did something to try to like touch her, and she just like struck at him, turned right around, and came right back at me, like went into my legs and like sat in my lap. So I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna like really say that's what is maybe a one-off experience, but like they can pick up on smell. And like one of my friends was holding her as well, like, and she bit him on the forehead, and then I took her back and she was fine. So it's like, okay, there's maybe something going on. And even bloods aren't necessarily one snake I would claim has intelligence compared to like the others where you can like, so like if that animal is acting like that, I can't like, when you get in the kings, the retics, the monitors, like these animals can process.
For sure. Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's just familiarizing with yourself with the animal, day to day handling. You start noticing different behaviors. They start noticing, the way they look at you and follow and stuff like that. And it's interesting. I think,
Yeah.
like I said, it's just the time that you've built with these animals. You do. Um, so, what's the most difficult out of like all the venomous to just maintain? Like maybe keeping up with their husbandry or actually setting them up in captivity.
Since I stick to the high-end rare stuff, there's a
Mhm.
lot of them. The freaking spider tails I've been force feeding since I've got them. They haven't
Right.
taken the meal on their own yet. I had one take its meal, and then I had someone helping me out, and he fed it too large of an item because like each thing's different. Like rattlesnakes, if they're not eating, feed them a big prey item, they go back on food. There's like I just don't want that little thing. But then spider tails, like this thing we fed it slightly large, it regurged and stopped eating on his own again. I was like, I just spent 6 months getting that thing to eat. So like those are challenging, and also not many people keep them, so there's not much information. So I'm like, I'm I the breeder told me one thing, that I got a guy in Europe that breeds them. He told me something, but it's like it's not a it people
One
have only
size fits
they
all. Yeah.
they got discovered less than 20 years ago. It's like, so how do we know how to keep them? Um, so that's difficult. Bushmasters are a pain, a absolute freaking pain. Because it you got the South Americans, which get larger, but you have to care for them a proper way. They need to be humid but not wet. If they get wet, they get red belly. If they get red belly, that kills them 100% of the time if you don't treat them. To treat them, the only way that I've found that you can do that is like soaking them in basically a bleach solution. So it's like those are a pain. If they poop in their cage and you don't clean it that day, they get red belly from their freaking poop after like 2 hours, basically. Um, but then you have the other end, the black-headed bushmasters, which have none of that. You can leave them in a 5-gallon bucket of water for 4 days and they don't get red belly, but they come out of you like a freaking heat-seeking missile. As soon as you open the tub, they're up and they're striking, and they're like, they get 8 feet long. So you have an 8-foot, this thick freaking bushmaster that is never calms down and just wants to hit you in the chest. So it's like all the bushmasters are freaking, they can be pain, but they're really rewarding.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
And I think that's another like capturing, working with these animals and why you probably have fallen in love with them, because it's rewarding that moment that you're able to handle these guys and be able to like not 100, because you can't tame them,
Yeah.
but at least understand how their movements are and work with them.
Yeah.
Um,
After all the hours and dedication and time that I've put in these animals, they allow me to get away with a lot. Like if you go to a wild caught animal, same species, same age, same everything, it's a completely different story. So and you can tell, like you're handling the animal, and like sometimes you'll see its eye move and then it goes, okay, we're chill. And then there's like you're totally fine, or they're just placid and you're like, I'm handling a filmed inland taipan right now, and it's just cruising through my hands and just chill. It's not coming back at me, not being twitchy. And then you go to some other facility and the fucking thing's bouncing off the walls. So yeah, it's really rewarding to see how far you can, not like I said, not tame down, but habituate and build that mutual trust and respect for the animal that will make the interaction with you enjoyable, and you try to make it as enjoyable for them too at the same time.
so I had a question because the stuff you're importing, like the albino gaboon and the leucistic king cobra, are they captive bred and born, or is it like
The albino gaboons, yes.
They are okay.
They are captive born and bred in South Africa from my friend
Mhm.
Bjorn over at Reptile Gardens. Um, he got really lucky with that project. He was like, one day he's like, oh, he had a big pit of gaboons, and he's like, wouldn't that be so cool if an albino popped out? He came in the next morning, a freaking albino post popping out. He's like, oh Jesus! And then he had to he had some issues with birthing them, and I think he lost the mom, but was able to keep all the babies. Um, but the leucistic king cobra was wild caught, and that thing was the biggest stressor of my life for a year and a half. It came in the size of a number 2 pencil, like in thickness, and maybe 16 inches long. And baby king cobras are notorious for dropping dead. Like they can do everything right, and then like they just stress really easily. So I had a high 5-figure animal that was a fresh import that this species typically dies really easily, and they're not solid until they're like 6 feet long, and they only eat snakes. And it's like, and the things it got shipped in from Indonesia. It was a 60-hour trip. So I'm like, that was the biggest stress. I was like, I just need to keep this thing alive. I have eyeballs on me, and then it becomes like, that's why I waited so long. We waited so long to post it, and then as soon as we posted it, I'm like, I hope it's solid now because everyone knows we have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now
That's
she's solid. She's 8 foot, eating berms, uh, looks freaking flawless.
I mean, to have a leucistic in the wild, that's pretty insane, you know.
And
Um,
unfortunately, most of them get killed. There's been a decent amount that have popped up, and we got offered a couple more. The problem is in Indonesia. So, like, there was one that popped up like a week later from ours, and the villagers chopped it in half. They saw a white king cobra, like, done. That's happened to a few of them. And then when they do finally make their way to captivity, the person keeping them, there is not on our standards as over here. So unfortunately, a lot have passed away and kept. Like, as one guy sent me pictures, like, "Oh, you want to buy this?" And it's a 7 foot fresh wild caught leucistic king cobra in a 10-gallon tank. And I'm like, "Why is that your transport?" He's like, "No, that's what I keep it in." I'm like, well, no, needless to say, within a very short amount of time, that snake was dead. So it was like,
yeah,
eh, yeah, that was a adventure and a half. And then trusting that you pay someone in Bali you've never met to ship you a snake, and it takes 7 months to get it. It's like, oh, that was a whole ordeal.
I could just imagine, man. Imagine. Have you traveled to like see these like venomous in the wild and stuff like that? Yeah, or
I've been to Thailand.
Mhm.
I went to South Africa last year and hung out with my friend Dingo, and we went and did a bunch of cool stuff. And I saw some of the stuff, and then the big king we have right now is Goliath, so that's Dingo's king. So I saw that while we were in Africa and handled them over there, and we did some black mamba work. And then I plan on going to Europe, where I get majority of the animals next year. I'm going to go over there. I've got a really good friend there that I met online, and we chat on there. He's about my age and just as crazy about reptiles as I am. So it's a good friend to have. So I'm going to go visit him and see his collection. He's the one shipping me the snakes next month too. So I plan on that next year.
that's cool. Yeah, and recently I was talking to a couple friends. I was like, man, I want to start traveling for animal, like basing our travels based on the animals we want to see, instead
Yep.
of just like doing like a theme park or going to go see this building or something like, um, because I think, I mean, look at the world we live in, and there's animals going extinct, and
Yep.
if you don't take the opportunity to go see some of this stuff, then you might never be able to see it, or especially with my daughters, I want to be able to experience that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I'm very much the same way. So when we went to South Africa, that was my like I never handled black mambas before that, and I purposely was like, I'm not handling the black mamba. I'm like, I'm going to learn in Africa, and I'm going to learn from Dingo. So when I went over there, I got the chance to. Dingo was like, oh yeah, like first day, like I got off the plane. He's like, want to handle black mamba? I'm like, I just flew 20 hours, bro. Like let's do it tomorrow. And he's like, okay, we'll film you handle it. I'm like, okay, we'll do that. So my first ever black mamba handling was in Africa with a wild black mamba with Dingo, which I thought was pretty cool. But it's like, yeah, it's like you travel and when you see the animals in their native range, it's so much different than just seeing one in a cage somewhere in Iraq or at a show. I'm actually haven't announced it yet, but after next weekend, I'm going to start working on it. Going to be doing tour like trips to South Africa to start. We're with Dingo, basically going out there, and basically my trip I had. So basically, what we'll do is you'll go out there, it'll be all inclusive trip. We're going to do active conservation, so you're going to see where your money goes, and we're going to do a conservation program. Is dehorning the rhinos, which is what I did out there, to where you go with the vets. It's a necessary process to where basically it's like trimming a fingernail. They go out, shrink the rhino, cut the horn off and trim it down. So poachers, there's no value, so they don't kill the rhino. But with doing that, you're going to be getting hands-on with an adult wild rhino. Like I have a video, I did the Jurassic Park scene with the Triceratops. I laid on the rhino, and like as it was breathing, I was like, I did all that. So you anyone that goes on a trip is going to be able to do that. Go to cheetah preserve. Dingo just bought a giraffe, so you're going to be able to get hands-on with a giraffe. What else? Elephants. We ended up in a herd of wild elephants. So we're gonna do all that. It's basically gonna be like a trip to Africa, but hands-on, like no other trip that's offered anywhere. You're gonna see the big five. Leopards are hit or miss because they're hard to see, and you're gonna get hands-on on most of them. So it's gonna be crazy. So I'll let you know about that when it gets planned. But
that'd be cool.
The show.
and so it sounds like with that trip you could check off a lot of those bucket lists, animals and stuff like that. That's
you want to handle a black mamba? We'll get you handling one. We'll get you a picture with it. Well, you want to go do the rhino? Okay, we're gonna get you the rhino. You want to do Nile crocodiles? Do Nile crocodiles. And also the good thing about Africa, it's like good and bad. There's like no rules, so it's like do whatever you want. So if you want to jump in with that Nile? Sure, do it. We'll try to make it safe, but like you can actually, like in the US, like touching a rhino, I don't think there's anywhere you can physically do that. But you go over to Africa and you're doing the conservation. Yeah, come up. You want to touch the rhino? And they get you involved. It's like, here, you come draw the blood for the DNA testing. I'll show you how to do it, and you do it. Or what else did we do? Like apply the antibiotics. It's like you're getting hands-on with this stuff, which is, like I said, I haven't been able to find another trip that's like it. So I think it's going to be a really great experience for like animal people like us that are like I want to go somewhere not as a tourist, but I want to know the people that are there. Like, show me behind the scenes, show me what you do on a daily basis, and get me close up with your animals, because you know this area way better than I do. I don't want to just drive on a bus or look through binoculars. I want to be touching it. So this can be pretty fun.
Yeah, that's cool. And like being part of the local community and stuff like that, that's the way to experience something. Because a lot of times when, especially us Americans, as we travel around the world, we see it through the lens of, the, what's it called? Like the tourist. You only see the pretty parts and everything. You don't see everything that, to me, it's the beautiful parts of the non-polished parts of the world.
Yep.
It's really cool. I mean,
exactly.
With the military, I went to Iraq and Afghanistan, stuff like that. And spending time with the local natives and stuff like that, and seeing customs, it's very interesting.
It's a whole different perspective to really, really see what they see.
It is, man. It is. And one thing, and my family's from El Salvador, so we've traveled there and I've taken my daughters. But one thing is, like, some of these people don't have the technology we do, the buildings we do and stuff like that. But some of these people are the happiest that they are in the world, because they live just to live their life.
Yep. Yeah, no distraction, no comparison. It's like you just see what you see right there. You're not looking at some rich person that paid to sit on a private jet and take a selfie to make and be like, oh, I wish I had a private jet. It's like, no, they just want the mango that they're growing on their tree in their backyard. Like, that's the happiest thing for them, is just those little things.
Yeah, so I think that's another cool perspective. It sounds like, with this trip thing that you're working out, you'll have the option to do something like that too as well.
Yeah. Cool. So anything I do, I try to like the importing, the breeding, I try to do it to where it's different than other people. Even the show, it's like I try to make it different, but I try to make it like as best as possible. Like there's no there's no point of me doing a trip to Africa if it's just going to be like every other trip. It's like there's no point of me doing a show or importing snakes if it's just what everyone else is doing. Like I want to do the best, and I think that the people that I attract to it also are like-minded. So it's like I want to make it to where everyone can have these great experiences, have these amazing animals, and just get the best out there rather than just take the easy route.
Yeah. Cool. Man, and then one of the biggest questions I have, especially like for venomous handlers, is like, what are your like? I mean, and this is my thoughts. Like as a family person, having daughters, stuff like that. I mean, that's got to run through your head. Like if you get, bit by a very, highly venomous snake, have you thought about, what's your process and your mindset on that?
So I've got a very strict bite protocol. It's required by the state
Mhm.
of Florida. So
Mhm.
I've got bite protocols for every snake bite. Funny enough, my only allergy is venom. So, so with me, I've got EpiPens in the venomous snake rooms. I've got bite protocols. I'm lucky enough to have some really great friends. So my friend Peter Birch from Australia was just over here, and he brought me a whole Australian bite kit, which has like pressure bandages and all that stuff to where I was kind of like looking around trying to find that because some of these elapids, it just shuts down your central nervous system. So you have to get basically a tourniquet, but it's a little
Mhm.
different. And then what they've developed in Australia is like they have little like rectangles on the bandages, and when you pull them to the right tension, it creates a square. So you know how much pressure to put on there by looking at the square. So I have stuff like that, and I have it set up in all the rooms to where uh, if I take a bite, uh, I'm prepared as much as I can be. And then, yeah, with the emergency numbers and all that to get someone to me in case I'm incapacitated with my
Yeah.
allergies and can't hit my EpiPen.
Yeah, and in South Florida, if correct me if I'm wrong, we have some really good centers for that if you get bit and stuff like that, right?
Yes, it's not perfect though.
Okay.
And when you have friends get bit, it definitely puts things in perspective and kind of like
Hmm.
I don't know, like I know I'm sure you saw like Chandler got bit recently,
Hmm.
and I went to the hospital. I saw him when he got back and did all that. And yeah, when it's definitely it's a different feeling when you see someone that you know personally and takes a bad bite, and then seeing how the hospitals react and kind of that whole thing. I won't tell as much of his story. I think he did, but yeah, but it's just like you're like, wow, not as prepared as I imagined that we were
Mm.
with exotic bites. So it's just doing everything you can not to get bit. Like I really try, yeah, not to. I take every precaution that there is
Yeah.
to make sure I can mitigate the risks and still enjoy the animals.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah,
And
it's
it,
tough.
like talking about like Florida precautions stuff like that. To get a venomous permit, how many hours do you need to input now?
It's 1,000 hours per family group. So in
Okay.
venomous, there are 4 family groups. So if you wanted all of them on your license and the ability, so it's Viperidae was all your vipers, Elapidae, it's like cobras, mambas, that sort of thing, and Australian elapids, and then Colubridae, which is your mangrove snakes and boom slangs, and then Helodermidae, which is Gila monsters and bee lizards. So yeah, if you wanted all those, it'd be 4,000 hours. And then you need 2 letters of recommendation. You need all your bite protocols done and submitted, and venomous escape-proof rooms.
Yeah. 4,000 hours is a lot of time to input. That's like,
Yes.
yeah.
There
That's
is a
a
way.
lot.
So they offer a test. They don't really advertise it, but if you call them up, you
Okay.
could go take a test, which for anything for venomous and class 2 animals, it counts for 500 hours. Or if you have a biology degree or a similar degree, that counts as 500 hours as well towards your permit.
Okay. Well, that's good to know too. Yeah. If
Yeah.
anybody's interested in working towards their permit. Yeah. Cool. That's good information, man. I mean, we're getting to the 2 hour mark and, we're going to close it off. My last question to every guest I have on, it's, if you had the 5 minutes, the attention for 5 minutes of the whole world, what would you say?
Geez, I don't even know. Come to Scales Expo, October 21st,
All
22nd,
right.
South Florida Fairgrounds.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
marketing right there. Yeah.
Yeah, just get it out there. Get people through the door, and let's get people to fall in love with these animals.
Cool, man. Cool. Great, great talking to you. Everybody that stuck through with us the whole time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the questions. Like he said, make sure you guys go to the Scales Expo next weekend. Also, subscribe to our channels. The links in the description to all of our social media, to the Scales Expo. And if you guys, like I said earlier, when we started the show, if you're looking to get some better husbandry, record keeping, try out Husbandry Pro. Our link to sign up is also in the description. So, guys, thank you for joining us. Ryan, stay behind real quick once we end this. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks on the next Scale Success Reptile podcast.